This is another in our series of identifying forage for rabbits. My name's Twigs Way, the writer of the book on foraging for rabbits, published by the Rabbit Welfare Association, which we're going to have a bit of a look at later on in the video. I'm also doing these videos on behalf of our rescue, Parsley's Warren, which is a sanctuary for elderly and special needs rabbits. So if you're enjoying these videos, if you find they're useful, then please pop us a donation. There's a link to the donations on the thread page for Facebook, Parsley's Warren. So today we're going to have a look at how to identify ground elder. Ground elder is one of the rabbits' favourites at this time of year, not slightly later, but this time of year. And people do get slightly confused, in this case, not because they are similar to look at to another plant we're going to talk about, but because they share a same name. So that you have ground elder and you have elder, which is a tree. And that is what confuses people. So the identification bit is going to be fairly easy in this video, but then we're going to go and look at then we're going to look at the elder tree and just talk about that for a minute, even though you can't feed that. So let's just have a look at this ground elder. This one is actually growing in my flower borders, and I have to say that's something that happens an awful lot. So if you mention ground elder, to any gardener, they will just look absolutely horrified, because once you've got it, it is very difficult to get out of your flower borders, and it is quite invasive. It probably isn't a native plant. It was probably brought in by the Romans, in fact, both for eating purposes. You can actually use it in a range of foods, and it can be cooked a bit like spinach, and also possibly for medicinal reasons. It was thought to be good for gout. It's a diuretic, which means it gets rid of waters, and it is commonly known as gout weed, in fact. So if we really focus in on this, avoiding the peony on one side and the periwinkle on the other, neither of which can be eaten by rabbits. My rabbits are very sensible and do not kind of eat things they're not meant to. So down at the bottom here, I'm really going to literally forage around, because it's growing. There's all sorts of other bits and pieces left over from early spring, and I want to actually root this up. Right, here we go. So as you can see, quite a plain dark flower. This is one of a dark leaf. This is one of those that drives non-botanists mad, because they just say it's a green plant with green leaves that just look like leaves. How am I meant to tell the difference? Well, if you've been following our videos, you'll know that plants have very, very different leaves. This one, okay, let's do it. Pop that one down. Actually, that one's better, nice. So this one has a very long stem, usually. Once it's this is it more or less. Did you get Frank in the video? Never mind, that was the cockerel Frank. So by this time of year, and I'm recording on the 1st of May, actually, happy May Day or whatever, it's got quite a long stem. It's at its full height at the moment, and it has these three sets of, or three kind of tripartite leaves. This one's actually slightly deformed now I look at it. There we go. So three sets of usually tripartite leaves. Get yet another one. It's not as though I haven't got enough of ground elder, which you can see how it comes up at the very top. It doesn't have any leaves going down the rest of the stem. So unlike something meadowsweet, for example, where you've got a lot of leaves coming down the stem, this is just one single stem with its leaves at the top. So even when it's growing, it's very, very young, its leaves will always be at the top. There's nothing else all the way down the bottom of the stem. Over the side, it's not notably grey or anything. It is a lighter colour. Almost all plants are lighter on the rear side. Very nicely defined veins. You can nicely see the 3. Occasionally, I don't know whether it's just mine or everybody's, but occasionally that 3rd leaf is a bit kind of stubby on that one. You can see where it was going to be, but it's kind of joined with the other one. But usually they've got these 3. When you pick, oh, and it's smooth, it's not downy, but it's not shiny, it's just a smooth leaf. People do say it's probably one of the boring leaf plants you can get. One of the nice things about ground elder, again, it's got this celery-like channel. We will get off talking about celery leaf channel plants eventually in these videos. Maybe I'll make one about hawthorn that's definitely not got a celery leaf channel. It's got a celery leaf channel. One of the really distinctive things about it, though, is when you pick it or break it, it has a gorgeous sweet smell. It's a little bit like smelling angelica. Now, I'm hoping people, angelica's not commonly used anymore, but I'm hoping you have an idea what angelica smells like. So it is a bit like smelling candied angelica or fresh angelica. And it is associated, it is kind of, it's a bit distant, but it is in one of the same families as angelica as well. It does remind me of angelica. We did have a lovely angelica plant growing in our old garden. The other distinctive thing about it, and this may well be something to do with why people called it goutweed, or its Latin name, which is Agapodium protograria. We're going to talk about that in the 3rd part of the video, as ever, is that when you get down to the very, very bottom of the leaf stem and give it a really good pull, it's got these runners. So it's got a little sort of foot, hence probably the podo part of its Latin name. And then it's got runners. Now these are the problem for gardeners, because these just break off. You can see this one's broken off, and leaves that in the soil and it just grows another plant. It's just brilliant at doing that. My recommendation is that if you want a constant source of it, you do grow it in your garden, but you put it in a far distant corner. It usually likes quite rich soil, so anywhere where you've had the compost bin in previous years, your sort of slightly junk heap, though obviously make sure there's nothing poisonous in the soil there because of your rabbits, and it'll grow beautifully there. Now, we're filming on the 1st of May for various reasons, because I wanted to look at the elder, the tree elder when it's in flower. But the ground elder is not yet in flower. When it does get into flower, it will again be one of these typical umbellifera flowers, a plate of white flowers, and I will show you a photograph of that in the next part of the video. Once it has done that, the chemical constituent of the plant changes. Now this is really, really common. And in this case, once that chemical constituent changes, not only will the rabbits not like it so much, but it's actually slightly dangerous for them. It becomes very strongly diuretic. Diuretic means it makes you wee a lot, which means that they really might, become dehydrated. Very, very strongly diuretic. I find that my rabbits just lose interest once it gets past this stage. But if you've got less plants in the garden than I have, fewer plants in the garden than I have, you may find that you need to deal with that. The best thing to do really to keep a constant source is once you see a flower shoot coming up, you literally go down the stem, pick out the flower shoot, and it's gone. And indeed what you can do is just cut back the whole plant really, really low, and it will come again in a couple of months' time, as long as we have some fairly damp weather, so which you can usually rely on in England. So it will come up again for a second flush in autumn. I think that's probably all I want to say about ground elder. I'll just have a very quick look at my prompt to see if oh yes, there is something I wanted to say, and that is, if you are a gardener and you want to have ground elder but something not quite as invasive, there is, if we could just back my lovely videoing person up. Sorry, Steve, don't fall over the chair behind you. There is a variegated version. Now, this is absolutely beautiful. Well, I think it is perfect for shady places. I'm trying to pick a root of it. No, it's not rooting out. But as you can see, it's the same plant. It's the same plant, it's got the same leaves, it's got the same stalk. It's a bit kind of not so thug-like, and it does tend to get taken over if you've ended up with a mix of non-variegated and variegated. I'm afraid the non-variegated will take over. It's got much more oomph, like a lot of variegated plants, because they're lacking chlorophyll. This one isn't as good. This one isn't as popular with the rabbits either, which is a great shame. If only it was popular with the rabbits as well, it would be the perfect garden plant. However, they don't seem to like it as much, probably because it's variegated. I find they don't like purpley leaves either. Variegated leaves, purpley leaves, they just don't take to them. But if you are a gardener, it's well worth being aware of this one. Grows in shady places, more or less bomb-proof, absolutely fantastic. Does also have the white flowers of the other one. So that's it for that one. We'll go and look at now the elder tree, because it confuses people that there's elder and elder. So here we are, having done our ground elder in the garden, and this one we're looking at is actually the tree elder. Now this is actually just called elder. We don't call it the tree elder, we call it elder. But this is one of those cases where the common name is completely misleading, because the ground elder has no relationship whatsoever with the tree elder. This is actually Sambucus nigra, and is a shrub, so it's just got nothing to do with ground elder at all. It's just one of those common name things. So, but what I did want to show you is this is not something that the rabbits can eat. This is not something that you would pick for forage. So I just wanted to show you, I mean, it's difficult to think that anybody would actually mistake the ground elder for your elder tree. Even when an elder tree is quite small, it would be very difficult to mistake it. I should just say actually that the ground elder, also known as pipe tree, it's one of several known as the pipe tree. The lilac is also known as the pipe tree, because the woody stems are actually quite hollow. When you're trimming them down, particularly in the garden, if you do have an elder tree in the garden, I'll tell you why, you might have later. If you're cutting it down, you'll see that the stems are very, very hollow, very much like lilac. However, I suppose you could say that there is a similarity in terms of the flowers, because the flowers again are these umbrella-like white flowers, but then so many plants have those. The ground elder has them, and actually I'm standing next to or in the middle of a patch of cow parsley, which we've dealt with in an earlier video, that also has those umbellifera, literally umbellifera in those case, type of flowers. So the tree elder, as I shall call it, a very rough stem which is hollow when you cut it back. The main stems aren't hollow. It has a leaf which I suppose you could say has some similarities with the ground elder. You may want to sort of, speed back on your video, track back and check out what the ground elder looked like. It really is very different. These are single leaves coming off a stem and coming all the way down. So it really is pretty unmistakable. And if that wasn't bad enough, this one smells disgusting. So, yeah, that's more or less, there is no way, whereas the ground elder smells sweet and gorgeous. So, what is this one useful for if you can't feed it to rabbits? Well, actually, what it is useful for is when these flowers get rather larger, they're just coming out at the moment, which is why I wanted to show it to you now. You can use these for elderflower cordial, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I have it every year when I have foraging events. I make elderflower cordial, and it really is gorgeous. So you can also make, if you haven't picked all the elderflowers, please don't pick all the elderflowers. There will be elderberries later in the year, and you can make elderberry wine, though again, that's not for rabbits. So those are our first two bits of the video. For the third bit, as usual, we're going to go back inside the house, have a quick look at these in some books, just again, discuss a couple of other things about them maybe. So I'll see you back inside. Hi everyone, so here we are back indoors again after being outside looking at how to identify ground elder and also the elder tree. The elder tree, I should remind you, is not to be used for foraging. Now, if you want to have a look in more detail perhaps, or keep a handy book with you, Foraging for Rabbits by myself has ground elder in it. It doesn't have the elder tree. And if I just open this up for you. So we have the ground elder on page 23. There's a picture of it that includes the flower. Now, I didn't want to wait to make this video until the plant was actually flowering, because by then I would have been saying to you, now is not the time to forage for it, because once it's flowered, it's no longer very palatable, and it also, as I mentioned before, has those chemicals that means it's quite a strong diuretic. At the moment, in its non-flowering spring stage, it's full of vitamin C, it's very, very palatable, and you can use it yourselves if you wish to make pesto with, or if you've got gout. I can't guarantee whether it really works for gout. I've always said in these videos that one of the other books that is really useful to look at because it has good identification is this one by Ian Garrard with text by David Streeter. And again, it's quite difficult for me to do this while still holding the video and open the book. If we could, here we go. So it's got a really good description of ground elder, or rather a really good picture of ground elder, goutweed. Interestingly, actually, theirs shows one of the leaves just not quite subdivided. So there we are, and that's on page 106. It's in our umbelliferas again, which have been renamed Apiaceae. So, and then it has a fuller description of it over in the detailed bit. Ground elder, goutweed, talks about it. And actually, interestingly, it does say it is unlikely to be confused with any other plant, which I would really agree with. The only other things you might confuse it with are something like great water parsnip, and that grows in very, very wet places, so and is relatively rare. So if you're wanting to just check your elder tree, there we go. That's actually, funny enough, related to our honeysuckles and things, but here we go. So there is your ground elder tree, and that's it with its great big plates of flowers. You'll be lucky nowadays to find one with such great big plate-like flowers. I really struggle around here, but still. And again, there's a description of that in the back. So one of the books I'll also introduce on this video is by a colleague of mine, Eileen Wuthall, which is available from her direct. I'll put a link to that on the Facebook page. My own book's available through the Rabbit Welfare Association. Eileen sells her books, her handy guides to forage direct, raising money for a different rescue. So as you can see, I don't think I've got this one open at ground elder. Again, there we go. She's got ground elder there and also talks through it. So that's another really handy book to have. I like mine because I can fit it in my pocket as I'm walking along. Talking of Eileen also actually reminds me of one other thing, which is that after I filmed about common hogweed, she said to me, could you remind people that some people are not only sensitive to giant hogweed, but also the common hogweeds. And indeed, some people prefer to wear gloves all the time when foraging anyway, because you may think that you're foraging for an innocent bit of ground elder, but down there is something that you shouldn't get your hand on, maybe a euphorbia if it's in the garden, which is very bad for the skin, or even something like nettles. So always good
perhaps to wear gloves if you do have a slightly more sensitive skin. I'm afraid in most of these videos you'll see me not wearing gloves, so I think I've got a skin like rhinoceros. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's clarified slightly the difference between the very edible ground elder and the not so, in fact not at all for rabbits, edible tree elder, although it is gorgeous for elderflower cordials, and it's given you some more confidence to get out there on a spring day and get foraging. So again, if you've enjoyed the videos, just give you a show of the garden. So if you've enjoyed the videos, please think of popping over, if you're not already on it, pop over to Facebook page for Parsleys Warren, no apostrophe in Parsleys, so Parsleys Warren, and think about donating some money to help us with our sanctuary for elderly and special needs rabbits. The donation is my PayPal account, which is twigsway@me.com. We would be really grateful if you could do that, particularly at the moment. It's a very difficult time for everyone, particularly for rescues. We've had to cancel a lot of events. So although we're not a rehoming rescue as such, we still have a lot of money issues because of the lockdown for COVID-19. Thank you very much indeed, and we'll be out foraging again probably this weekend, so at least filming foraging. We forage every day, but we'll be out filming some more forage this weekend because it's springtime, so I'll be bringing you some more forage videos. Thanks very much. Bye.